By the beginning, I assume you mean the book of Genesis, because you have the beginning talking about creation in the book of Genesis, and then you have a beginning even in the Quran of the Muslims. You have a beginning of the Hindus, beginning of the Baha'i, beginning of the Sikhs, beginning of the Buddhists. You got a beginning of people all over the world. Many, the Native Americans have a story at the beginning. None of these stories go back as far as the Sumerian story of the beginning, which is recorded on Cuneiform tablets, right, called the Enuma Elish, Atrahasi, etc., etc. And their tablets, especially the language Cuneiform, the wedge script, itself comes out of Egypt, out of a language called Nuwapic, right, which is an ancient mystical language. They have many dialects in Egypt, Demotics, Heretics, so on and so, that associate with Aramic or Hebrew. The reason why I say that because I want to make clear when we start talking about Genesis in the Bible, and we use this language that they have in the Bible that they're calling Hebrew, when we know Hebrew didn't really exist, because Abraham or Abram, a Chaldean who wasn't a Hebrew, was called a Hebrew. He was a Chaldean, and he worshipped the Chaldean gods, the sun god. He got introduced to the god Elion El by a man called Melchizedek, who wasn't a Hebrew, who was a ruler of another land called Salam, which was the birthplace of Jerusalem before Jerusalem became Jeru, from Jebus, one of Canaan's sons, and Salam, from that ancient kingdom. So when you say beginning, right, you gotta understand that there's different beginnings, and the Bible beginning is not the oldest beginning. Though Christians and Muslims alike would like to think that the Bible that they hold in their hand, when it says in the beginning, is the beginning of everything. But there's certain things that happen down through that same book that reveal that this couldn't have been the very beginning, because statements like the goal of that land is good, mentioned in Genesis chapter 2, and it's talking about the land of Cush when you look at it in Hebrew, as they're calling it, and that's called Ethiopia. And they try to give you try to get you to believe that the Bible had its beginning over in the Middle East, as opposed to Ethiopia, which is in Africa. Right. But the statement about the 4 rivers keeps ending down from the Tigris, Euphrates. They pour down into Nubia, which is ancient Egypt, which is Cush, Ham, Phut, Mizraim, etc. Those are the families of that area. So the beginning changes if you go back to the land in which they say the beginning in Genesis is talking about. If we get over there and actually stop and look, we'll find that the beginning story changed in Egypt. Whole concept, though it sounds very similar. You follow? You with me?
Yes.
So to look at it, let's say we'll start with Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. That's always the best place to start, right? You see, Bereshith bara Elohim eth hashemayim wa eth erith haharith. All right. This translates closely as Bet. The first letter there is the Hebrew letter Bet. Bet is symbolic for the Hebrew word bit, for house or abode, something in which something is encased. The original ancient root from the ancient Chaldean language is Bet. Bet, and it means where a person goes inside and goes to sleep or rest. Maybe bed came from that in English. But the original initial letter in most Semitic languages, after you get past the alif, you come to the letter Bet or Ba or Be or Beth, and all of them keep coming back, or Beta in Greek, that which is not Semitic but one of the European languages, but all of them got this letter B. And B, for some strange reason, is the first letter of the Torah. It's the first letter of the Quran of the Muslim, because though they say that the Quran started in the 610, so on, so on, so on, so on, so Muhammad was in a cave, etc., etc. The first thing said to him was, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa, right? Which meant read or recite in the name of your Rab. Rab is a Judaic name for Rabbi, Rabboni, right? Master or teacher. So in the Quran, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa is no more than read in the name of your Rabbi, really. But it becomes Lord, which is equivalent to Yahweh or Yahweh or Jehovah, and we know that's a physical being, as we explained last week, and this can continue. But so that the Quran first revelation is Bet Ismi. So they start saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim or Bismillah El Rahman Ar Rahim, however they want to distort it as they create their grammatical games. But it starts off with that letter Bet too. And then you go to the book